Hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Conversational Gems. I'm Kritika Devi, product marketer from the Zoho Sales IQ team, and I am your host for the day. We have a very special guest joining us, that is Radha Rangachari, CEO of Spikra Private Limited, a very trusted Zoho partner.
Okay, so hi Raga, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm so happy and excited that you are here for this episode.
Thank you so much for having me in this episode.
Okay,
I think I'm probably the first partner to be here. Nidhi, correct?
yes, special guest.
Papa. Thank you.
Okay, so let's start with your journey. How did this you becoming a partner? How did all of this start?
I was an accidental entrepreneur.
Okay,
So when I quit Zoho, I said I'm never touching the laptop again. This is the actual natural story.
okay,
No extras, nothing added. So when I quit Zoho, I said I'm never touching my laptop again. If at all I touch it, then I would probably do it for something that I'm doing on my own. So I quit in March. I learned yoga for a month and I became a yoga teacher. And I was also a Montessori school teacher. That's something that I was trying earlier. And then I was also doing some voice recording and all that, like a voice artist kind of a thing. Put together, I did it for 2 months. I couldn't even pay my share of the house rent. So then I tried something else. I worked abroad for another 5-6 months with another partner. So that came in my way. I went to Dubai. I couldn't live in Dubai. That's the truth. So then I said I came back and I was living in my house for a month. Felt very guilty. Then I was living with my friend also for a month. Felt very, very guilty. And then I was talking to some of my friends on what I could do. Then they suggested, go to your freelancer or Fiverr or do something. I was also I was preparing my resume for Salesforce. Maybe we're good at something, not good at anything else. Let's go to Salesforce or something. Then I had one of my friends as a first client in IIT. I was accidentally talking about this to one of my teammates in Zoho who's still here. So he was happy that I got back to doing something. Then he said, why don't you become a partner? I said, no way, they're going to approve it. So then he said, okay, I'll write on behalf of you. If it works, fine. Otherwise, it doesn't. Then there's a wonderful lady called Donia. I think she's taking care of Middle East partnership right now. So I had an interview with her on November 30th. I had prepared the previous night. I still have those ones. If I were Tonia, how would I evaluate the other person?
okay.
So I had all those questions prepared for myself. So we had a good conversation. She said, Radha, I'll go ahead and approve it, but I want you to register it as a company and have some employees. I said, you and I are hardly 30 years old. We are all in mid of 20s. You and I have almost the same experience. I don't want your seniors to come back and cancel the partnership later. Right?
Okay.
I don't know what authority you have. I was so naive that time. That's all I knew. For me, Zoho is a huge brand, like what it is today. So then you give me an email confirmation. Only then I'll go ahead and register a company. So she sent the same thing in an email and only then we registered the company. And it took me 2 years to even understand what I got myself into. For the first 1 year, I was pretty much a freelancer. I was super scared to hire. And then COVID happened. It kind of came in our favor and then we grew. But this was no way in my plan.
Okay, so accidental entrepreneur it is.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so how is your not using your laptop going?
Yeah, I tried it for about 5 days. First day, I was very, very, very guilty. Second day, I was super stressed saying what that customer is going to escalate. What will this new person do? Oh my God, I only have access to this thing. What will happen?
Okay.
All of those. But nobody bothered me for about 5-7 days. The point is the company can run even if I'm not there. It was only me overthinking sometimes. That's all.
Oh, so I'm personally very curious. I think in one of your talks, Zoho Talkies, with one of your, I think you did it in 2020.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have told that you learned 45 products in 30 days.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm very curious to ask this. Zoho has a wide range of solutions.
Yes.
As a partner, how do you decide on the solutions that you give to your clients? How do you do that?
So the good thing and bad thing is that, right? There is so much of applications. You have two CRMs. You have Zoho Invoice and also Zoho Books. You have Zoho campaigns and also marketing automations, right? So you can do the same thing with multiple products. So you really have to have the patience and the clarity to educate the customer to saying that narrow down to their use case and then really understand what they want, right? And some customers would say, yes, Zoho One is pretty affordable. Let's buy Zoho One tomorrow and use all 30 applications. I still haven't seen a company who are using all 30 or 45 applications. They don't need it. Right? So that time you really have to have the patience to understand what their use cases and then get into a consulting mode. That will take a longer time. Once that happens, then you can implement. We don't implement all at once. We take a maximum of 3 to 4 products at once. And that will also be around a certain operation. For example, if I'm taking a finance operation or an inventory management, we would do pretty much to cover into the inventory. If that needs analytics, we'll add. If that needs creator, we'll add. If that needs overflow, we'll add it. But otherwise, we will try to make sure that we don't move out of the operations and suddenly start a CRM or a marketing campaign while this is still work in progress. So we take it phase-wise.
Okay, so build it like a tech stack.
Yes. Yes.
Right. Okay. So you said that you have been partner for 6 years now, right? And in these 6 years, your clients' demands, expectations would have drastically evolved. And what at one point, what you thought that, okay, this is what my client is going to ask, and this is what is going to be expected of me as a partner, would have changed in a few months or even much later or even before that. So with that, your partner landscape would have also evolved. So what are the major or key shifts that you have seen in this, change?
So 5 to 6 years ago, generally people come and ask us, I know Zoho, I know it can do something related to software. Probably I'll need, I need a CRM or something. That's all they know. They won't even know it is Zoho CRM or Creator or anything else. But now they're very clear. I want begin, I want premium plan, right? Later I'll take a shift to Zoho CRM. Right? And the clarity is really there. I think now we have a lot of articles, we have a lot of content around, and we have a lot of community groups around. And we also have ChatGPT, right? So the moment you ask me, suggest me best plan, it is going to ask you a couple of more questions and it is suggesting. So they don't really need us to understand their requirements again and then finalize which plan that they need. Everything is available online. It was there before also, but in the recent days, the customer taking the initiative to finding which app, which plan, how many users, that has increased a lot. So that's a good thing. So we no longer have to take multiple demos and then have multiple series of conversations with them just to decide between a professional or a premium or an ultimate class. So that is something they decide themselves, which is a huge shift. And every time a new technology comes in, right, whether they need it or not, they will ask for it. Right? Now everybody is coming and asking, I want AI on Zoho, right? Because my entire data set is in Zoho. Now, if you actually look at the use case, it would have been a simple automation use case. You can either set up a workflow for it or a data flow integration, or you can light some custom functions or just use a simple API webhooks or Zoho flow to sort it out. But customers are not happy with it. Then we will be like, where is the AI? Like, boss, you don't need AI. This is just a random automation between 2 different teams that you want to do. You don't need an AI for that. That is also happening. So it's both sides.
Okay, so customers are becoming more aware, they know what they want, and they have a lot of clarity in what they want. So that is actually making it easier for us.
Yes.
True. Okay, so if you can, give me an emoji on your journey as a partner, what emoji?
I won't say everything.
Everything.
Because one, I'm a partner, but this is also the first time I'm learning business. I had 5 years of experience when I started this, and I had already quit 6 companies. Right? I'm a very bad resume if a HR wants to pick me up. And between each of these jobs, I would have definitely had a 3 months or at least a month break. I would travel or do something that I want to do. Right? So I would say all of these emojis, because there has been really days where I cried a lot when the customers didn't even understand that this is a roadblock. It's a product problem and not my problem, right? If the custom field limitation is only 50, it is only 50, right? We can write to the backend team and increase it to 75, but I can't do it 300, right? Then this is why I'm paying you for. So there are customers who don't understand that. And there are customers where their internal politics will come on us. They don't want to use the software because somewhere people still think that softwares are brought in to manage me. Right. So that is also there when you go to some of the older companies or some who is first time adopting for software. That is also there. And there's been a really a lot of happy moments and proud moments when a case study comes out. Or first, we have some companies who are with us for 5-6 years. Right. When we say their growth, when they go and take a funding for the next few $1 million or euros, we feel proud about it. Right. And whenever you get a big sales commission, or a customer gives you a testimonial, or touch wood, till date, I've not spent a penny on marketing. I spent it on Zoholics booths. I've spent it on events that I've done, but that's not for lead generation. That's more of branding. I've not spent a penny on marketing, and we never go out of leads again, touch wood, right? So that's a good feeling to be in, but that's also a bit, how would you say? You're not able to scale that much faster as the demand is, right? So it's a mix of all emojis. It has been a very happy mixed roller coaster, I would say, because it's also my first journey of being an entrepreneur, learning business to hiring to operations to finance to GST, everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, but no.
One emoji. Two things. One, I would say a lovely heart emoji. Right? That's one. And the other one is an emoji which has $1 in its thumb. Yes.
Money.
Yeah. Okay, right. So business is about making money also.
So,
Both.
so, like, okay, when you started off initially, it would have been just you?
Yes.
Okay.
Just for about a year, just
Okay, so now your business has grown drastically, if I can say that.
yes, definitely.
Yes. So, with the business growth that you have experienced, how do you give that quality of service? How do you match?
That is very difficult because as the team grows, that's a pro and a con as well, right? I've had other partners and customers advising me saying you can't satisfy everybody, right? But it has a lot of factors into it. So if you touch wood, in the last 6 years, we haven't had a single escalation to Zoho where we are actually wrong, right? That is a metric that I follow. More than the revenue or anything, there shouldn't be a bad sale that you have done, and there shouldn't be a bad implementation that you've done, or there shouldn't be an implementation which has taken your customer's brand down or taken it, right? These are also the metrics that you'll have to work. So when you're following that metrics, then scaling up is really difficult in the pace that you want it. Right. So we have a lot of processes in place. When it's a process, and not too much of documentation or anything, but making sure that we go to the customer again and again and make sure they use the product, right? So sometimes it's not about the money all the time. It's about the success that you see when they, make it big, right? So this is what we do. And until a year and a half or two ago, we were more working like a bunch of freelancers. Everybody doing everything because everybody knows more than 10 products. Then we understood saying, you are really good at books. Let's just go deep dive into that. You are really good at CRM plus. You be there. Somebody is really good at HR suite and the dev suite. So we started aligning this as a different teams. But then what happened? The same customer have to speak to multiple people. So these are things also will happen. And that's when you move from a smaller to mid-market companies who are ready to have that kind of an experience and then go deep dive into every use case rather than a one-time small gig kind of a thing. So we had a customer for about, for the last 4 years, one of my earliest customer when I was doing it alone. She was the first person to tell me, you know what, you've quoted it really, really low. And this is definitely going to be at loss for you. Then I said, I don't even know what is loss or profit yet. As far as I'm getting paid something, I'm okay with it. That time I didn't have a team also. So she's been a very good mentor and a friend for the last 4 years. We are still working with that company. So we onboarded her as the delivery head. So she's from Kolkata. So she also comes to Tanjore and Chennai and she meets with us like once in a year or so. And then she's working with us. So she brings that local professionalism kind of the processes. So that is helping us today.
Okay. So you said that it has been, I wouldn't say difficult, but bit challenging for you to scale up as a partner.
Yes.
But you are still doing it and you're doing it really good. Oh. So give us a few tips on.
Personally, if you ask me, I'm not doing it as much as I could, right? That's a guilt that's lying down somewhere still in there. Because that's when you can really scale up but compromise on the quality. And then you can take baby steps and build it sustainably, and then you can take longer to scale up. With the number of leads that we get and with the, scaling that we could do, we could have about 40-50 employees today. But we don't have even half of it. We only have 18 to 20 members right now. That's a conscious decision. Earlier, we used to hire, I'm a huge fan of Dr. Vembu sir as well. So we have most of our employees in Tanjore. So when we hire locally, it takes a long time for us to train them, right? They're really good at technical. but the communication aspect of it will take time. And as a small company, you can't have one developer and then have another person just to communicate it to the connect. You're too early to have a functional person and then a technical person. It has to be a techno-functional role. So for you to get them up to a techno-functional role, it will take 8 months, 6 months. For some people, it will take 1 year, 2 years also. But they're really good, right? You will have to bring that out of them. So earlier, that was very difficult. We hired a lot of people from them, but then nobody could speak to the clients abroad. So then we started serving a lot of domestic clients. Then also we got into a bit of language issue when their team members had another one, right? So then we had to work around this. Communication was a major challenge when we hired from there. So now we do two things. One, we hire for the vision, and the other one, we hire for the mission. Right? Mission is where you immediately want to get to. Vision is, I'm okay if this person takes a year or two. Let them take their own time. Let them do whatever they are comfortable with, but eventually we'll bring them up to the rest, right? So that is what we're doing right now. But I would still say that we're not scaling up as much as the opportunities that we have right now.
Okay.
That's something that I'm still learning.
Okay, yeah, you're thinking for long term now.
Definitely.
Okay. Zoho has about, I think, over 2,000 partners.
I once last year it was about 5,000 partners.
5,000 partners.
Yes,
Okay.
both listed and unlisted together, I guess.
Together. Oh, yeah. I think officially
Listed might be 2K.
2,000, over 2,000. So, how do you differentiate from the Zoho Partner Network?
One thing that accidentally became our USP or the way that we work is when I started, I had to make money immediately. Right? I didn't have a budget to hire a fancy pre-sales person. I was a pre-sales person myself. So I know the cycle of a lead to deal to a demo and then to a POC, then negotiation, and then that's a longer journey. So I didn't want to do that journey. While I did only a few, I didn't want to do sale aggressively. So I started onboarding existing customers, started doing smaller gigs. That has helped me become a premium partner within the first 2 years itself. So first year we were authorized, next year we were advanced. By the third year when we entered, we were already premium because we had a lot of existing customers. That is where most of the partners were not focusing also, right? Once you onboard them as a new sale, then you also maintain AMC and all that. But somebody who has already bought it online and has nobody to assist, that's an easy sale, right? So we do work with a lot of existing customers rather than we focus much on a new sale. That's one. And I believe software as a service is right from onboarding to billing to everything to export of data to even deleting of the account. The control is with the customer. So I don't go and sell an AMC unless the customer pushes for it. So while selling a new project or a product, if they ask me, give me an AMC with the maintenance cost service, I would say no, right? Because you don't know the system. You'll have to implement it. You'll have to use it for 3 months. See if you have achieved the goal on why you started this implementation first. Then you'll have to go into whether you have data issues, user adoption issues, or configuration process issues. You'll have to understand all those. Only then comes an AMC, right? And it's not my software. I don't maintain anything, right? I don't have access to the DP also. So AMC and SaaS kind of don't go together is something that I feel. So we don't do a lot of AMCs. Instead, what we do is we don't want to lock the customer with us for a year. Because what also happens is when you sell a license and also sell an AMC together, you kind of indirectly telling the customer you need me throughout, right? SaaS is not that. SaaS is like you don't even need the product guys with you. So it's all online, right? Then why would I as a partner and go tell him that psychologically you need me? Then the user adoption goes down because I don't want to break anything. Then it will cost to the company to pay somebody else, right? So if you don't want to break anything, then you're not going to use it as much as possible. You're not going to explore it. So that is something which we don't do. So these two things that I would say. And one more thing is, we use everything Zoho. I have not seen a product that my company uses outside of Zoho, right? We literally force them to use everything Zoho, whether there is a requirement or not. If you can have another product to do it, learn another product. So in a way that has helped us to do implementations to FSM, IoT, RBA, and even Catalyst. So we have done all these products also. IoT was just launched like a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
We have an IoT customer for the past 2 years,
Okay.
right? So similar with FSM also, similar with RPA also. So we have been one of the early adopters of the new products of Zoho, and these are the key things that I would say.
Let's talk about client relationships and its art of managing client relationships. I think in one of our episode with someone from Zoho, we were talking about how building trust in even if technology is so advanced, trust becomes the factor that holds the relationship together. So what is your approach to getting that long-term relationship with your clients? How do you approach?
I say this to my team also. This is something that I learned from all my seniors. So be very, very transparent. Load them with facts, whether they like it or not. Tell them what is really happening. Don't keep them in the dark. Often I see what people do is they don't even go back and update saying I'm working on it. What answer would I give? I only have to give a positive answer. The customer is not looking for a positive answer. He's looking for an answer, right? And he knows this is a platform which can have some solutions, which can have some limitations also, right? So he is willing to learn it with you along the way that you are also learning, when you have access to backend and all that. So that is something I would suggest. Be very, very transparent. Load them with the facts. And if it's something that your mistake, accept it, it's your mistake, right? For example, let's say I didn't know what the refund policy was. So I committed 90 days instead of 45 days, right? These are bound to happen, right? And let's say that you thought the solution was not possible, but then it's possible in some other way around, right? So tell them the sorry saying, I thought this wasn't possible, but turns out it's possible. I'm sorry. Can I still do this for you? Right? And if it is something that's waiting for Zoho or it's a backend issue or anything, just be very, very honest, because even Netflix has a downtime. WhatsApp also goes for a downtime. So no software is bulletproof, right? So things are bound to break. And it could be the issue from the customer side also. So be very transparent and be a little bit of empathetic. Right? So that is something which is missing. So you read the lines, but you don't read between the lines. So what happens when you don't read between the lines? For example, let's say a desk email is not being sent as a ticket, right? Mails are missing. Mails are missing is a factual issue, right? And there are logical ways to look at it. But also look at what will happen if mails are missing, or what will happen if somebody is not supposed to get an email, but then they get access to that email, right? It's a data breach issue. So try to understand the business process also beyond that. If you do that, the customer is going to trust you and the customer is going to be with you even if he moves to another company. I've had a lot of customers. That's one of the reasons why we get repeat businesses, because I know one client who has switched 5 jobs. I think he's also like me, who has switched 5 jobs already in the last 5 years. And we have done Zoho for him in all 5 companies, right? And every time he's from Bombay, every time he's here, so whether we get to meet or not, he'll make sure he'll pick, right? So similarly, that goes with the clients abroad also. And particularly when you're abroad, when you don't see each other, when the physical presence is not there, establishing a trust is very, very difficult. So use every opportunity to enrich them with data, give them all the help articles, everything, whether they read it or not, it's not your problem, but it's your duty to send it to them. Once you do that, then the relationship is going to naturally happen because they trust you so much with their business, right? So that's what I would say.
Okay, so but it doesn't come easy. Yeah,
it's not easy. Yeah, it's not easy.
A lot of challenges would arise, and it is very difficult to change that into a positive outcome for you.
Yes.
Do you have any examples that you can share?
I've had a lot. I've had really a lot. So we recently tried to make it positive for about a year with the customer. But then we let them go finally because we just couldn't make it positive. So the reason being is it was a core ethical issue, right? So they were tuned to writing books in their own way in the previous software that they're using. No numbers were right. So when we got in Zoho Books, we tried a lot to make it right because we didn't know that those were wrong numbers. Their profit was different. The profit that they filed was different. But then when they asked our team to do it, I didn't know initially. But then when I got to my notice, it took a long time for me to confront them with this point saying, sir, what you're doing is wrong and I don't want to be a part of it, right? I'm okay to lose the money for the efforts that we've done for the last 1 or 1.5 years with you in the engagement, but I don't want to do something that's not ethical because you are doing it and I want you to be happy. In that case, I'm okay if you're not happy. So this is an extreme case. But usually what happens is customer gets frustrated because they don't know what's happening. That's when you tell them, this is how it works. So the moment you tell them this is how it works, that's fine. And don't give false promises, right? Don't tell them you can fix in a day. I tell my team, don't promise it can fix in a day. You don't even have access to logs. Forget about fixing it. You don't even know what's happening, right? You would have to record it, send it to Zoho, have a screenshot with them. Their developers have to check it. All these happens. So don't give fake promises. Probably, what do you call it? Over promise and under deliver is something that you can try.
There's this sense of urgency that comes when issue arises. So
People get anxiety attacks and panic attacks when they get a support ticket. And I'm like, you are not good for support. You probably go into the implementation team or something. You're not good for support. Right? Without even knowing what the issue is, people get panic attacks also these days. That's funny. Yeah.
Right. So I think what you said about the first point, transparency, and then giving the right ETA for this.
Yes.
So yeah, all of these things work. So referral based growth is very important in this business, right? So how is it working out for you, this referral based?
As I said earlier, I've spent zero on marketing. 40% of my leads that I get are from referrals, which is a good thing, right? Whether we serve them or not, they are ICP or not, that's a different thing. But clients coming back and giving you another client is huge, right? I've had clients introducing me to a community and asking me to speak in their community meetups promoting Zoho. That's like 40 leads at a time, right? So these things happen as well. And particularly when you are here and you don't get to travel a lot. And during COVID, you can't even go meet the customers in person. And I'm very happy and proud to say that I have a customer in every region, at least one customer, be it Africa, New Zealand, Australia, Europe, UK, you name it, we have it, right? So at least in one customer in every region. So you are forced to do it right for that customer. Because otherwise, he is not going to give you referrals. And no way you can go spend for $1 per click in US to generate leads there. So referrals is the best way to go if you're bootstrapped. Yeah.
I think what I incur from this is that your customer service to your clients has been a great boon to you.
Yes.
Okay. So a surprise question here. What actually means Spikra? I've been thinking about it. I've been wondering, okay, what do it mean? Is Tamil? Like, where is this coming from?
So, Spikra stands for nailed it. Perfection in Norwegian language. This is one story. And the other story on how we arrived at this name is there was a time where buying domains was a craze.
Correct.
And we all got to know what entrepreneurship is. Someday we all had the dream saying someday I'll start a company. I own like 12, 15 domains right now. I still have it. So back then we purchased a lot of domains. This was my friend's domain. So, how we coined it, the name is there's a sea monster called Kraken. Spider is for web. So somewhere we'll build a product that will take the entire web and stick it into an ocean so that we control everything in the software. But some night when you're randomly chatting, that's when we decided. And that also means perfection and nailed it. So my thought was I none of the domains that I had was fitting for what we wanted to do. And because I didn't know what I was getting myself into, I didn't even know what a company was and all that. I said, if there is a name, either people should remember it or they shouldn't even remember it. Right? If it goes down the drain, this is something people can't remember that easily. But if it's a hit, then people remember it, right? So that is how I borrowed this domain from my friend. It's still on his name only. So we renew it on his name only. And then we borrowed this domain and that's how we kept it. Like, I didn't wanted any technologies, no cloud solutions, nothing. I didn't know what I was doing. All I knew was Zoho, selling Zoho, implementing Zoho, that's all. So we just kept it as Spikra. And first logos and all, I was telling my designer yesterday also, I had $1 with an S symbol. So I said yes for a striking S for success. And then the infinity symbol that I had earlier was my father's previous company where they had an infinite growth. So implementations lead you to business growth, right? So by using these software. So I thought implementation, infinite success growth. That's how it started. Yeah.
Nice.
So when my designer comes to me someday, he'll look for my approval. I said, you are 1,000 times better than me. I don't even know what this is. Just go ahead.
Okay, yeah. Great. So with this, we have come to the conclusion of part 1.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
With this, we have come to the end of part 1 with Radha. In part 2, we will talk about how technology, AI and automation is shaping the partner landscape and what the future holds for Spikra. Stay tuned.